Hey guys, welcome into the show. My name is Tyler Kluver. I'm a former Division 1 athlete. I now run a fitness coaching business as well as a sports media brand that creates podcasts, sells merchandise, and creates other exclusive content. This show is a place for me to document my thoughts on fitness, health, nutrition, maybe some business or mindset stuff, as well as update anyone listening on my own competitive fitness endeavors and life events. I want everybody that comes and listens to this show to take something away that can make their life better, whether it's a diet or fitness tip or a way of thinking about things that motivates you to be better in your own life. Hopefully, we can get that done. But regardless, I'm glad you're here. Let's have a day. Let's go. Holy smokes. I just looked and we have not posted a excuse me. Choking on my morning eggs. Protein. Get your protein in. Haven't posted a podcast in 4 weeks. It felt like 2 weeks. But then when you realize that it was actually 3 weeks that you skipped, and even on a normal cycle, you go a week without an episode. If you're on pace, it becomes 4 weeks, and that's a month. That's a month. You guys last heard an episode on July 24th. And this one will be posted today, August 21st. So where did I go? What happened? I'm pretty sure just a couple episodes before we went dark there, I was like, yeah, there's no reason why I shouldn't be posting an episode each week. And then I didn't post any. And that kind of ties into today's subject. Today is going to be a little bit rambly. You're going to have to bear with me today if you're really a true snapped listener. This one may be for you. The dozen people who are just like diehard Snap fans. If you're just a fan of the whatever makes vlogging and other people who are like influencers and seeing other people's lives and what's going on, the fascination that we have with other people's lives and how much money they make and what their day-to-day schedule is and how they go about living. I know I have a little bit of that. If you like that stuff, today will be a little bit on the inside stuff. It's going to be Dad Tyler. It's going to be a dad episode, family man episode kind of vibe and topic today. Which, again, going back to why I was gone for 3 weeks, a month, it was because in my life, the way that my wife and I, our careers slash child daycare situation is set up, my wife is a teacher. I get to choose my schedule, and not only that, but the heavy part of my schedule basically starts now at the end of August, beginning of September. The summer football wise, relative to the content that I'm putting out, is pretty dry. So I can kind of pull back on the football podcast stuff and enjoy summer. And that coincides with my daughter, who goes to a teacher's kids only daycare, in-home daycare, which means that we don't have to pay for the summer. That stops when school gets out and starts when school starts. So that started this week. But for the last 2.5 months, we've had her home. And my wife has been home. Everybody's been home. So it kind of matches up nicely because when my wife and daughter are home and I wake up in the morning and I happen to work from home, not only does it make work a little bit harder if they're out in the basement of the new house here and I can hear them through the office door playing and having fun, makes it hard for me to be motivated to do work. But it also is just, or I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. I don't want to work if they're here. So that being said, I think one of the last 3 weeks was something where I just didn't have time for it, but the other 2 I just plainly skipped. I just did not post. Tried to spend and extract as much time together with the wife and daughter. Um, Tried to soak up as much time as I could with them before they slash all of us had to go back to the new in school. We'll call it the in season schedule. It's kind of how I think of it. There's about 9.5 months of in season and a 2.5 month off season. Um, so yeah, that's where I was. I was spending time with family. Hopefully you don't knock me for it. Uh, and that is what today is about. I just want to pop on. There's about a million things. There is one fitness thing that I want to talk about, but today is going to be when I mentioned in that intro, just podcasts about life and um, I didn't even say parenting because when I recorded that in, well, I guess I did record that intro. I was a parent, but I guess I should add parenting to the intro. Um, the summer is great. I wish that I could live the summer schedule that I just came off of uh every day. It's what I imagine retirement looks like for me, or someone who stays connected and still works a little bit but is officially retired. Hour to 2 hours of work, quote unquote work per day, if you want or not. And the rest of it is spent leisurely doing what you want, doing things that make you happy, healthy. For us, that's going for walks. I mean, we went to the park damn near every morning this summer. Might be the first podcast, this first Snap podcast where you get emotional, Tyler. Gonna try and hold that back because nobody really wants to hear me cry on a podcast where 122 people listen. But it's amazing. Like it's like I said, what retirement in 25 years from now feels like in my brain. Um, you wake up, you make yourself a coffee. Like the wife and I we got an espresso and got into making our own coffees and saving a ton of money by not going to the actual coffee shop every day. You make your own coffee. The daughter sleeps, the kids sleep in, they wake up, you immediately turn on cartoons and start playing with their stuffed animals in the living room. And you get to watch them grow up. Right. For now, it's just one. Hopefully, eventually, it's more. And you get to be there for their life, which a lot of people don't get to do. And that makes it really tough when you switch to the new schedule. This new schedule of wife goes back to school, daughter goes to daycare, because I can't take care of her by myself and get all the work done, especially as work 10x's here in the fall. It makes it really tough because you get a taste of what life could be all the time in that summer schedule. You just hang out all day. Baby girl takes a nap. I work out for 2 hours. The wife watches Real Housewives and gets a couple things done around the house. Then baby girl wakes up. We have another 4 hours where it's just, oh, take her to the park, take her to the zoo, take her to the trampoline park, take her to the kids museum, take her to the science center. It was something every day, sometimes 2 things a day. Take her outside. She rides her bike. She runs around. She goes in the backyard. She gets in the pool. It's all based on your kid. And I know, again, some people may not relate to this. Some people may not have kids that are listening to this. But if you do, you understand what I'm talking about. And it's a weird spot to be. I know I'm rambling. Again, this is just going to be a ramble podcast. Uh it's a it's a weird privileged guilty feeling to even discuss and talk about that sort of schedule and that sort of opportunity, because I am in a very schedule wise, my wife has a unique, being a teacher isn't unique per se, but that schedule throughout a 12-month calendar year is unique to a lot of jobs where you just, other jobs, you don't just get a 2 to 3 month break, right? And my job is super privileged to where I just walk down, 12 stairs into the office and I get to create and set my own schedule every single day. And I know that 90% of people plus don't get to do that. Um, so the fact that I get any time at all past what a normal person gets, which is crazy to think. It brings up all these topics in my head that I think about philosophically in my own brain, um, about like, should the 40-hour work week really be how things are done? And when you say 40 hours, for a lot of people, that bleeds maybe closer to 45 or 50. And if you include the commute for some people, now that climbs above 50. And on a normal day, if you expect people to also grocery shop or go to the doctor, or you have an appointment here, take the car into the shop. Oh, by the way, what this podcast is about, hey, get a workout in or a 30-minute walk in every single day. The hours, and if you're sleeping 8, the hours start to really dwindle on the time that you get for yourself, let alone for your kids or your family. And so I'm very, again, coming from a very strong base of privilege here. But on the other side of that, you get that opportunity and you start to think why and how, and not it's not like I'm going to create massive change. But maybe as a society, we got to think about how we get closer to living that life where you do have time for yourself and we don't spend so much time grinding away for work, away from our families, away from our kids. Um and you just miss life. You miss out on it. And I think maybe this is something I recognized early in my college years when conversations about life after football or what you were going to do for a career started to really ramp up. It's why in the degree that I got, exercise science, I originally, back when I was in high school, thought, oh, I'm going to own a gym one day. I'd like to run my own CrossFit gym. I want to run my own box. Um, and that quickly shifted, especially once I got out of college and was kind of volunteering in that position, slash, then I got an actual paid salary position. Uh, okay, it wasn't salary, hourly, kind of coaching job at a gym in town. And it quickly became evident that that's not what I wanted, because I could feel the pull of wanting to spend more time with my wife and then eventually the kids that would come along. And I realized that the kids and the wife were going to be at school slash work during the day, and in the mornings and the evenings is generally the time I would get with them. And coaching in a gym or owning a gym was going to require me to be there at the gym in the hours that I'd rather be with my family. And maybe that's, a little bit of the manifestation, if that's such a thing, of how I ended up in a spot that I have much more free hours during the day. But I don't know, man. It's tough. It's really tough to go back to this schedule now. And in a way, I love it. I now get my free time, my alone time. I love to be alone as much as I love being a father and a husband. I think in everybody's life, they need some sort of alone time, me time, time to themselves. I love that time, not because it's away from my family, but just because of what it does for me. Um, I get to grind work that I really enjoy doing, creating podcasts, creating content around the stuff that we do. Uh, but man, it's tough to go back. I dropped the kid off at daycare this morning. Today was day 2, really day 3, and she just clinched. She grabs on. She puts her head on my shoulder, and if I didn't let go, she would have stayed there until we walked away and went back home. And in some alternate universe, I was like, oh wait, we don't have to go to daycare today. It just makes you sad. It starts to bring up thoughts as a father of like, man, do I just figure out a way to work and really just commit to like a couple hours a day at the end of the day? And do I just keep the kids home, and do I homeschool them? Do I look after them so that we don't have to have other people raise our kids? That's the the phrase that always comes back to my head. It's like, is somebody else raising my kid right now as I'm at home doing work? It's like these conundrums, these back and forths in my brain. It's like, oh, but also, if I just keep the kid home, now they're going to be the weird kid who was a homeschool kid and didn't get any social interaction with other kids, didn't learn how to share or be polite or play nicely. Like, it's all these things. These are the thoughts of a 29, soon to be in a month, a 30-year-old dad. Um, these are the thoughts that I have. This is a lot of the stuff that I think about. And outside of the fitness stuff that I do here on the Snap podcast, outside of the football stuff and the Iowa Hawkeye stuff that I do with the Washington Walk-Ons, this is what takes up most of my headspace. Outside of those two things. But, and I maybe this is just me complaining or venting. I don't know. I'm glad I didn't cry, but I could cry because it's so precious to have your kid at home and to be able to watch them grow up. So that is my morning. That's my morning, and I'm just using my own struggles as content for a podcast episode. If you're a dad or a mom or any kind of parent out there, usually those two generally in my line of thinking, uh, you probably understand and relate to that. And I think if you're thinking about that and it's sort of a, a it's a tug of war in your head of like, how do I get more time with my kid? You're probably a good parent. That's probably the question that you're asking yourself, or the deeper issue that you're struggling with. And if you're thinking about it and trying to sway it more in your favor at all times, then you're probably doing pretty good as a parent. Couple cool things on the horizon here. I guess one cool thing on the very, very short horizon. I will be competing in a CrossFit competition. Usually, if you've listened to this podcast over the last 3 years, as I've gotten into the competitive scene of CrossFit, I did one competition with my buddy and former teammate at Iowa, Cole Fisher, and we won that competition. That was in 2021, I believe. 2021, maybe 22. We won that competition. Um, it was a good competition. There was, there was definitely one other legitimate team of two, probably two that we had real competition with out of like 10 teams. Uh, we Otherwise, I've just sort of stuck to the CrossFit headquarters schedule, just the actual official sanctioned CrossFit season, which is the Worldwide Open, the quarterfinals. Since the year that I started competing basically was the year they introduced quarterfinals, so I've qualified for that. And then quarterfinals is your attempt to make the semifinals. I'm never going to make the games, and I've accepted that. But that's the schedule. So basically, end of February, beginning of March is your open. About a month later than that is the quarterfinals. And if you can somehow at one of these years make a semifinal, that happens in late May, basically like a 3 to 4 month season. And that one competition that we did was the only one. Well, one of the coaches at the gym, Isaac, uh, the gym that I go to once a week ish, and I haven't been in a long time, but I'm going to start going again here soon because I miss my friends. He's one of the boys, pretty good at CrossFit himself. He hit me up 2 weekends ago and was like, "Hey, do you want to do this competition? It's in 2 weeks on a Saturday, looking for a partner." And it's quite literally the closest CrossFit gym to our new home. It is about a mile, 1.2 miles down the road. Uh, could literally walk there on Saturday morning. There's 4 events. I'm not going to go over the events. Yeah, there's sort of a cardio based event to start out. The second and third events are back to back, but 2 separate scores. The first part is burpees and toast bar. Second part is a lifting event complex. And the last one is sort of a chipper style of 5 different movements, AMRAP. I think we got a good chance of winning. I have no idea who will sign up for this. I know that there's a couple studs around the Des Moines area, and I a lot of people who are competitive sign up for these things. It is a partner event, so you're 50% relying on your partner and their ability. But I think we have a decent chance to do well at this thing. We should for sure at least podium. If we do not get first, second, or third in this, then I probably need to consider High Rocks or something else because we a local competition. If you don't podium at my level, then something went wrong. Excited to share how that goes, though. Maybe next week we'll recap those events and how we did. It's all just Saturday morning into lunch, so there's just basically 3 event windows, and we'll see how we come out. Excited for that. And then the other exciting thing about the Snap podcast that I just checked before we hopped on here is we will be touching 50,000 downloads on the Snap podcast with this episode. So by the time we roll through next week and you hear next week's recap of the competition, we will have hit 50,000 downloads on the Snap podcast. Pretty unbelievable. I look at the weekly numbers and I wish we had more. I wish that 500 people listened to this or 1,000 people. And in reality, it's closer to somewhere between 100 and 200 people listen to each episode. Partially my fault because I just don't advertise it as much. I don't think that this is a very polished product, especially something like this episode where I just ramble about random stuff. And that's why I don't, really post about it more and promote it. But the people who do listen, I thank you so much for coming here every week, except for when I'm gone for a month randomly. This will be episode 173, so 50,000 downloads on less than 200 episodes. I don't know what the math is there, but that's a pretty good average download per episode for just a honky donk little podcast about fitness and some random dude's life in Iowa. Again, I appreciate you guys. And thank you for just listening to me babble for 24 minutes at a time. Hopefully you got something from today. I don't know. If not, maybe you're excited to hear about the recap and if I blew it, me and my teammate Isaac blew it in this competition or not. It'll be a nice little fitness check in this end of summer, beginning of fall off season. The goal is to win. We're gonna go in trying to win. Your excuses are not valid. Find a way to get it done today.